Hello, my name is Zoe Hunt, and welcome to Flute Talks. This afternoon, I'm here with Dorie Gold. Dorie is one of the founding members, I believe, of the EFA and former president of the Edmonton Flute Association. Good afternoon, Dorie. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good, good, good. Okay. So I wonder if you could go into a brief history of your flute journey.
My flute journey. So probably my flute journey began in grade 5 when my teacher in music gave us recordings to listen to different orchestral instruments, and I loved the flute. And so then when my junior high bands got started, I thought I either wanted to be a drummer like Karen Carpenter or I wanted to play the flute. And she didn't even give me a chance to try the drums. She just put me on the flute right away, and I got a sound right away. So she said, that's your instrument. Awesome. And so I was a band kid. And then from there, I did a degree in music therapy at Capilano College, which is now Capilano University in North Van.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, my background is music therapy. But continued to perform and teach. I actually taught at CAP, taught flute in the music therapy department at CAP. And then, I don't know, it just kept going. And we were living in Korea for about 10 years. And while I was there, I had a chance to do my diploma with the ABRSM. So I did my diploma in flute performance and just started teaching more and more and more and doing less music therapy. And then I just felt that flute was my forte more so than music therapy, and so left that career behind and just do flute.
So tell me, the teaching that you do now, do you at all transfer the music therapy into your teaching lessons, or is that something completely different?
I would not say that I work as a therapist in any way, shape, or form as a teacher, but I would say the skills I gained as a music therapist definitely impact my teaching because of the communication skills that are so focused on the understanding of the educational process and how the brain works, working with groups, families, all that stuff. The skills I gained as a music therapist definitely improve.
Yeah.
Improve my skills as a teacher, I think.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thanks.
Can you tell me about the EFA and how that came to start? What are because you're
the EFA was cooking in my brain probably from about 2005. After moving to this area, I just kept looking with a little bit of jealousy to the States and how they have these wonderful flute associations, and flute associations can bring in workshops and teachers and networking. And I kept thinking, we need this in Edmonton. We need this. This would be terrific. So I took some time this morning to try and figure out the dates because, things just sort of flow. And I'm like, was it 2016? Yes, it was 2016. So in December of 2016, I said, you know what, I think the time's ripe. We're just going to try something. So I sent out an email to every flute player I knew in the area and invited them to a coffee morning. And we had a Christmas coffee morning and play-in hosted by the school I was working at the time, Taylor Conservatory. And I don't know, about 14 people showed up. And we had a wonderful time, and we had a brief meeting discussing, would this be something people wanted to do? And it was overwhelmingly yes. So then I think it was, we set up a committee anyways, so to look into how to be a nonprofit, and Leanne Gaynor gave us incredible help on that. And then we hosted a meeting. Lisa Nelson was in town. giving a master class. And so Shelley Young stepped forward and said, hey, why don't we merge this master class at U of A together with another meeting
Cool. Yeah.
to an inaugural meeting to get a name and to get all the votes in that we needed to move ahead to be a nonprofit. Got that done. That was wonderful. And then got all the paperwork done and had our first AGM in 2017.
Oh my goodness.
2017 was our first AGM.
Okay, so you were the pioneer. You were really the founding member. Okay, that's what I thought, you know, so I'm glad to know that, and it's now on record. So here we go. Got ya.
Oh, it's official. I'm the one that kind of said, let's do this. And then, but like, it couldn't have happened if people had
sure.
not said, yes, this is what we
got
want.
you.
Right. And so many people came forward to do that, you know.
So what does a flute association, mean to you? What does it mean?
Well, to me, it means community. Mm-hmm. And a way for us to work together to bring good happenings to Edmonton.
Okay.
Outreach,
right.
Getting to know each other. One of the reasons in my mind for having it happen was sometimes people would come to town, and we were all phoning each other, emailing frantically, so-and-so's coming to town, there's going to be a workshop. To get that out there to the teachers, to the students, to the performers.
Like teeth. So it was a challenge.
So important. And I can't say that we've always nailed it since we've become an association, but we have had such great things happen and been able to get the word out to so many people because we have the association.
It's fluid. Yeah, it's a lot easier. Good. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. So you told us a bit about teaching, just going through all the questions here as well. So you've been teaching for a while. Through the pandemic, how has that been for you for teaching?
Well, I actually started teaching online about 5 years ago. So I've taught in person and online for a lot longer than the pandemic. So I had that experience already of what teaching online was like. So that helped a lot in terms of the transition. I think the biggest thing was the abruptness and how fast we had to transition when the lockdown happened. It was like, boom, I went from teaching in person on Friday to teaching the full, you know, all 30 students Monday, started on Monday, and getting them used to how things worked online, getting the parents used to it. It was hard at the beginning to do the full studio. I just found I got really, really tired, and I think lots of people had that experience. But because of the way school was set up, and the majority of my students are school kids, I just started putting more rest breaks between students to give my eyes a rest. And to be honest, oddly enough for me, my eyes were tired, but it was my legs that got really, really tired.
Is that right?
Yeah, which is really funny. But at my studio, the flooring was different than at my house. So I had to look at some ergonomic mats and things like that. Because that was very energy draining, having sore legs.
So it tells me that you are standing the whole time.
I was standing more than I would, and I realized part of it was because I was on the computer. I have neck issues that show up when I play sitting.
Oh, I see.
In order to demonstrate, I was standing a lot more, and I had to really retrain myself. So some teaching strategies were a little bit different, but you know, I guess the question is, like, I'm looking at from sort of how did teaching change with pandemic, but it was more a teaching change through being absolutely online to being
Right.
occasionally online. Because I
Uh-huh.
just had a couple of students online prior to that.
Okay, I see. I see. So the good part about that is you had the idea of how things would work, and you had a system set up in place. So
Yeah.
what is the major difference between pandemic teaching versus face-to-face? Like, is the routine different, or is it?
No. I mean, obviously, the main difference is that you're not in the room together. So you have to rely a lot more on your verbal skills and your ability to explain things really clearly, because you can't pick up on those nonverbal cues
Right,
that
the
a student.
nuances, yeah, for sure.
That's probably the biggest one. So it's a little harder to tell if a student's tired or had a rough day, or they're feeling really good and super energetic. You really have to rely on the relationship you have with them, that they'll let you know. And then every cue you can pick up. So it's like, oh, this person is a little off today. I wonder. And then you say, so how are you doing? How was your day? And then you find out. Whereas in person, maybe they walk through the room and you can tell right away, wow, this is a kid that get the tissue box out because something's up, right?
Yeah.
Not that happens all that often, but you just don't have that extra body language to help you when you're teaching online. I haven't had a lot of issues with hearing the tone, hearing the vibrato, stuff like that. I've got a really good setup. So that's never been an issue. The one thing I do find, though, with working on breathing, I always have to figure out how I'm going to set up the camera so that, they can see what I'm doing when I'm demonstrating and stuff like that. But overall, I think it's been actually quite empowering. And I think my teaching has improved a lot in terms of verbal communication.
Cool. That's great.
You get so good at it. This is how to explain it, and this is the question to ask.
Right.
Because that's all we've got.
Yeah. So it's virtual communication, and you're trying to put the emotion and the reality more into it now. So yeah.
It's very I want to say picky, but it's very precise. It's extremely precise. Online teaching.
Yeah,
and I thought I was pretty good at it, but having all of them on for a full year, it's like, oh yeah, this is a better way to explain it. They get it. This is, especially with sort of, because flute is very physical, so trying to explain where your air is going and how can they experience where their air is going. When I have, and I can't go to my desk and pull out a tool and say, here you go. They've got to do it on their end and figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, actually.
Cool. Okay, on that note, on a similar note, there are 5 questions that we routinely ask. So one of them is, how do you practice yourself? How do you do scales? How do you teach? And what are some of the techniques that you use for both yourself and for teaching?
Oh, okay. So do you want to divide that up a little bit?
Yeah, let's divide that up. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So first of all, how do you teach? What is the routine of teaching?
Okay. I really individualize the teaching strategy for each student, because they all have unique needs, and I have the the experience and the expertise to do that. So I wouldn't say that there's a routine. We definitely, even with the little ones, you're working on the technique behind sound production, the technique behind good breathing, rhythm. Rhythm, boy, doesn't matter how advanced you are, there's always rhythm, and I love teaching rhythm. But I think it's more diagnosing where that person's at and then selecting the strategies that fit their unique position and potential. And sometimes that's sort of taking into account where they're at as a person as well. Definitely teaching a little 9-year-old is quite different from teaching a retiree who maybe has returned to the flute after a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. And then how do you practice yourself?
I definitely practice more in the summer. I'll tell you that. In summer I changed my time, and in the summer I practice in the morning, and so I spend more time practicing in those months. When I'm my regular teaching schedule, I usually don't start practicing till maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon, depending on what time I start teaching. I think that the number one thing I always do is I do long tones with humming.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it just opens up the sound. Really opens up the sound. And that's something I worked on with Lorna McGee at Pender Island Flute Retreat. And that was just like a hugely eye-opening technique. And so, yeah, I do that pretty much every day. I also do head joint sounds before I put my flute together. I work on my head joint for a while, doing harmonics, doing vibrato, whatever on my head joint. Then I put the flute together, and I do humming with long tones.
So with the head joint, do you close the end of the head joint, or do you put your finger in and pull?
I usually actually neither. I usually just play it open, and I work on octave. It's not truly octaves, but up and down, and then I really like it for vibrato work.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because it's quite torturous for vibrato work. So depending on the day, I will plug it for vibrato.
Nice.
But I also like to work with vibrato using just the metronome. And just work at increasing the speed.
Serious technique. Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm one of those people. I have to really work on my vibrato all the time. And then, to be honest, it just depends on what my students are doing, and if I have a concert coming up. I haven't done any concerts lately because of COVID, but my duo and I work with Tyson Oatway in a duo called the Northern Lights Duo, and we're starting to work again on our stuff. So that's going to be coming out of the drawer and getting onto the stand. But mostly this year it's been, I always do studies. I love studies. Studies.
Yeah, who's your favorite composer for studies? If you have There's a few.
Probably Kohler.
Oh, really?
And I know I don't say his name right. A German friend of mine said it's something like Kohler.
Okay.
Kohler. Yeah, I love the way a good study, you're just so drawn into it so completely, and you're completely in the moment. I really, really enjoy that. And sometimes I like just taking like the simple ones and just playing them really, really fast and whipping through them, and it's just really satisfying.
Nice.
So I'd say that's sort of, long tones and scales. I like Reichert the best. In fact, I've got him on my stand for good technique work. I really enjoy that. Every so often I do a bit of Tafnel and Gobert. Most in the summer is Tafnel and Gobert because it's a little more time consuming.
And then for your flute students, you practice their music to
Yeah, I've got to go through their music, and right now I've got a lot of people, in the higher levels. So
Okay.
this winter has been a lot of Enesco and Iber and Poulenc and people like that. So, but that, I don't consider that practicing so much. It's more going through it and making decisions about how I'm going to teach specific aspects.
Interesting. Well, that's good to
Right.
know.
So if I know on Wednesday morning we're going to be looking at the third movement of the Poulenc, I'll go through it and I'll think through a little bit more, say the fingering, or I know that this particular student's going to, we need to work really a lot on one section. So I'll figure out what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more my preparation as opposed to working on their music.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Any tips or tricks that you've learned along the way?
That humming exercise that I was
Mm.
talking about.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's an extended technique, but it is just phenomenal for opening up our sound.
Now you have an Instagram account, is that right?
I do. I have two.
Okay.
So I've got my own, which is the business account, Dorie Gold Flute.
Okay.
But I also have Yeg Flutes. And Yeg Flutes is an account for whenever I see something of interest to Edmonton flute players.
Okay.
I just post. So EFA stuff's up on there. Whoever I hear from. Depends on who I hear from.
Great. So that's YEG flute at YEG
Yeah.
flute. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Also the Dorie Gold flute. You have some tips and things on that I've seen. I've looked into that and
Yeah, sometimes it depends on what I'm doing. Yeah, I've got some stuff up on there.
yeah, that's really interesting to kind of get different ideas and techniques and things to work on. They're really fun. I've looked at it myself and
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, no problem. And oh, here's a question. So, what is something most people don't know about you, Dorie?
Oh, I asked my husband about that because I'm like, what don't people know about me?
Everybody knows everything.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know that I like to cook Korean food.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. And I make really good bulgogi. And for Easter, we're having tapte and a special rice noodle wrapped in bacon thing that my kids love. I do basic Korean food, but it is very delicious. I've just never mastered kimchi.
Okay, yeah, that's a challenge. My friend does that. My friend
yeah, and my sister-in-law makes her own, and I keep saying, maybe one day, but we don't eat it enough. Yeah, so it's always a specialty dinner, right? So when my kids were younger, we probably had Korean food once a week, and I learned the recipes I wanted to do, and now I've kind of settled into my core. But having lived there, we lived there a long time. And
how long did you live there for?
Pardon me?
How long did you live there?
We were there 9.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 9.5 years. And I never learned to cook Korean food while I was there.
While you were there. Oh, okay.
No, so then we moved here, and it was like, oh my gosh, I miss Korean food so much. So thankfully, some friends shared some wonderful recipes with me. And yeah, so that's something I like to cook, and Korean food is probably something people don't know about me.
Excellent.
Unless they've been invited over for dinner, which doesn't happen now at all.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think those are all of the questions that will keep us. I think those are all the questions that we went through. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time today to
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you to the Alberta Flute Association. the Edmonton Flute Association for giving us this opportunity, and to the Alberta Arts Foundation.